Hello and welcome. I'm Claire Feldman, your host and guide on this journey to thriving in private practice without the burnout. Are you a passionate therapist who's struggling with the entrepreneurial side of things? Do you wish you could serve great fit clients at times that suit you? Are you seeking financial stability so you can continue doing what you love? If so, then you're in the right place. I know firsthand the difficulties of navigating the business aspects of therapy, from building a website to managing social media, but I've made all the mistakes so you don't have to. Together we'll explore how you can build and grow your dream practice. So let's get started. Hi everyone, welcome to today's podcast episode where we're going to be shining the light on private practice websites and looking at maybe the things to watch out for if maybe you're quite new to private practice. Maybe you don't have a website, you're thinking about building one. What are some of the things that you want to take into consideration? And I've done loads of reviews of therapist websites. And so I've got lots of little insights and lots of things to kind of share with you. And I'm maybe going to focus, not to be all negative Nelly, but I'll focus on maybe the common mistakes that I see being made in order for you to perhaps try and avoid them. And avoid the mistakes I've made, by the way, because I've had my own little journey when it comes to website building. I'm currently on my third website for my private practice. Obviously, I've got a separate one for the Prosper in Private Practice, my membership, but separate. But for my private practice, I'm on my third website. And that's been a whole journey and a whole learning curve in itself. When I first started in private practice around 12 years ago, like many of you, I went through the whole, I've got to do it on the cheap and I've got to do it for free. And so I built my website myself. I think back in the day, because I'm really old now, back in the day, I think you built your websites on Yell. So I built it on Yell. So you sign up for Yellow Pages and then you got like a free facility to build a website. So I built that one myself. And it sort of served a purpose in that clients were able to check me out. Clients were able to find me locally. But it was very basic and not particularly user-friendly. Then when I started to go down the route of niching, I don't know, maybe initially about 7 years ago or so, I thought, right, well, I'm going to pay someone. I'm going to pay someone then who's going to help me with it. And I paid this guy, I think it was £500 to build a site. And then there was like a hosting that you had to pay something like £30 a month in order for the hosting, and then you got like so many minutes of updates that if I needed something updated on the website that he could do it. And then more recently, through lockdown, is when I invested in my final website, which I love. Just going back to the second one, and this is going to be a watch out for you. I was paying someone, so the fee of £500 for him to build the website. Yes, okay, that's a significant amount of money. But in terms of getting a website built for you, that's actually pretty cost effective, especially considering this was maybe around, it would be quite a few years ago now that he did this. The learning for me, and the thing that I want to then heed as warning to you, is that I have since come to learn that there are certain website hosting softwares that are more responsive and more effective than others. So, for example, Squarespace and WordPress would probably be the most recommended in terms of platforms that are good from an SEO perspective, and that other platforms maybe just aren't so good. So with this one in particular, I can't even remember the name of it. It was something really weird. But this guy had built the platform on this software that was very rare, that very few people used. And basically it meant that I was never in a position where I was going to be able to take my website and, for example, transfer it onto another platform or to get somebody else to work on it. I was never going to be able to get another designer, for example, to work on it because it was so rare what he had built it on. And I don't know if this was intentional, but it sort of meant that you were stuck with him paying that fee every single month. And because it wasn't a very user-friendly platform, it meant if I ever wanted to go in and update things myself, it also wasn't easy at all. And that's something you want to ensure that you're able to do with your own website. Are you able to get in? Are you able to edit it? Are you able to update it? as and when you need to, because the content on your website should be changing all the time. Certainly, you want to make sure you're able to go in and that you're able to add blogs and things like that as well. So that's just a little watch out for you. The third and final website that I had built then, it was £1,800. That was a huge investment for me. That was a scary amount of money for me to spend on a website. But I also knew I was making this decision around a time when I was really leveling up in my private practice, that I was going to be increasing my fee quite significantly. I was doing some branding work. I'd had photo shoot done. So it was kind of all tying in together that this up leveling, I wanted a really good high quality website that was really aligned with me and my brand and the service and the fee that I was offering. And whilst that was a lot of money for me to spend on a website, it has absolutely more than paid off in terms of the quality of clients that I attract, in terms of the volume of clients that I attract as well. It absolutely has been a game changer for me. So you can see, I guess, the purpose of me kind of sharing that little story with you is I have also done what many of you do, which is to go straight in and I'm just going to DIY it. I'm just going to build it myself because I can't afford to spend more money. And let's face it, you've spent an absolute fortune getting this qualification, doing your training, paying for all your CPD, paying for your supervision, all of this kind of stuff that absolutely you've spent all this money. But then there then becomes this dilemma between, are there places where it is better in your marketing? Are there places where it is better for you to invest in getting expert support versus trying to do things for free? And you will know yourself better than anybody where that might be right and where that might feel right for you. In hindsight, for me, I'm not a website designer. I don't have a particularly brilliant eye for design. I'm not a perfectionist. So I had no business building my own website. And probably in hindsight, I should have invested in getting a really good website built from day one. Only you know the answer to that. I think if you're someone who is really good with tech and that you've got a really good eye for design, you're a bit nifty with stuff like that, then absolutely it might be that you can build your own website. If you know they're not your strengths, then it might be better to think about investing and getting support. Where obviously there are wildly varying fees, I do think there is something in that you get what you pay for. And so when I just share my own experience, the difference between someone building the website for me for £500 versus the £1,800, it was night and day, in that the £1,800 investment, that website designer was fully involved in getting to know me, getting to know about my practice, getting to know about my ideal client, getting to know what my clients' hopes were, what the outcome was that they would hope to get from working with me, like really fully involved in understanding every aspect of me and my ideal client, and also getting a feel for like what colors I like and what looks I like, and the feel of, how do I want people to feel when they come to my website. There was so much involvement from the designer that the outcome in terms of what I got, the result, was way beyond my expectations. So investing in that was really, I was investing in someone that was helping me build and create a brand. So that's kind of the first thing I really want you to consider. And I really want you to think about when it comes to your website. Where do you fit in that, from the, am I doing it for free? Am I DIYing it? Am I getting a little bit of help and it be maybe cost effective? Or am I going all in that I'm really clear on my ideal client, my niche, and I want to just get started in the best possible way I can. And I'm going to invest heavily in a really responsive, good looking website that's going to kind of showcase me in the best light. So only you can kind of decide what feels right for you and where you might fall within that. The little watch out for me, I guess, is whenever people make the decision just based on, I have to do this free of charge and I've got to DIY it, is that you might end up jumping in and using a hosting software or a platform that's maybe not ideal and that's not very responsive, and that only people coming through your therapist directories are going to see it and going to land on it because like it's just not working from an SEO perspective, that nobody's going to find it on a Google search, for example. So I know, like I've heard certainly that platforms like Wix and GoDaddy aren't that great from an SEO perspective, but Squarespace and WordPress are. So I would encourage you, if you don't have a practice, that you're thinking about making sure that you do some thorough research, first of all, around what is the best software for you to be on to build a website. And I want you also to think about the look of that. Like I said, if you are good at making things look pretty and using templates and things like that, then that's great. You might be able to actually build like a really good website. But I've seen some therapist websites that don't look great, that they've been built for free or built very cheaply. They look very clunky and they're very unresponsive. And I mean, unresponsive in terms of they take too long to load. It takes too long to navigate through pages. Maybe there's links or buttons on the site that don't even work. Click on the button and nothing happens. People's attention span and people's patience are so short now that if your website doesn't load quickly, it's not really responsive, if it doesn't look good, people will jump off very, very quickly. So they're just kind of the watch outs and the things for you to take into consideration. The next thing I would say that I see as a common issue in therapist website is that they are what's the right word, too cliche. So by cliche, I mean that they all sort of look the same, that they've got like little images of stacked stones on them or a lotus flower or something. Like there's just sort of these cliches of what we expect to see on therapist websites. And I think if you have that sort of a website, it's not really appealing to the eye. It's got all that sort of cliche stuff on it. And then your content is maybe a bit too vanilla and a bit too generic. It's probably not going to capture people's attention. So the homepage is going to be the first page that people will land on your website. And when someone lands on your website, they want to know very, very quickly whether you might be the right therapist for them. The best way for you to be able to do that is to have some sort of tagline on your homepage that almost is just like a big boom slap in the face to the person on your website that says exactly what you specialize in and who it is that you help. What I see too often when I go onto therapist websites, their homepages, is that it'll be just some sort of a inspirational quote, or it'll be just something generic like counseling for, and then a location. You want to be really specific in that your homepage and all the content on your website really needs to speak specifically to your ideal client and to their pain points. So, for example, I was just on a website earlier on today, and on the homepage, there was a quote that said, counseling to help you lead a happier life. And that's probably like a prime example of the kind of when I talk about cliche, like saying, like helping you to live to your full potential, helping you to live to your, the happiest, be the best version of yourself. There's another cliche there, is that things like that don't really speak to anyone. What I want you to think instead is, who is my ideal client? How do I speak directly to them and have a tagline that says that as soon as they hit on my site, they see it on the homepage? So like for me, my niche is binge eating, and there's something on my homepage, something along the lines of overcome binge eating and regain your power around food. So if somebody's looking for a binge eating therapist, if somebody comes to my website and they see that on the homepage and they struggle with binge eating, they're absolutely going to think that I might be the person for them. And they're more likely to click through and start to read the rest of my content. So I want you to think about that. Does your content on your website speak to your ideal client and speak to their pain points? And can they see that? from your homepage within seconds of landing on it. And the other thing that is often missed on a homepage that is also really important is a photo of you. People will want to see, number one, is this the right area for me? Does this therapist specialize in this thing that I need help with? And number two, what do they look like? I can't tell you the number of times I've reviewed websites and I've scrolled through and cannot even find a picture of the therapist who it is. Pictures will be really important for potential clients when they're making decisions. So you do want to make sure you have a picture on the homepage and you want a picture on the About Me page and potentially on some other pages as well. So you do want to have your picture kind of dotted around on the site as well. The third thing then is related to what you write on your website. So although, like I've already said, it is really important that your website looks pretty. It does have to look good. I think personally, the simpler the better. A really just nice, simple, clean design is all that's needed. What's actually more important than what your website looks like is the content that is written on it. What therapists tend to do when they're building their own website, when they're putting content on their website, is they tend to write their content with their therapist hat on, and it focuses then all on them. So it will say loads about how many years experience I have, what qualifications I have, what professional body I'm registered with, what CPD I've done, what all my experience is, and then all the organizations that I've worked in. And so it's all about the therapist. And I want to totally flip that for you and give you this really important message. Your website is not about you. Your website, although you are going to be writing about you, your website is not about you. Your website is about your ideal client. So is what you are writing on there speaking to them? So again, on my website, they will click in and it will say things like, are you on a never-ending diet and binge eating cycle? Do you feel like you have written or tried every single diet going? Do you feel like this is the final straw for you? Do you feel like you're beyond hope? Do you feel like you're obsessed with food and weight? Do you hold yourself back in life because of how you feel about your body? Like, I have content and questions and things on there that absolutely speak to my ideal client. And then I tell them the bit about talking about me is I'll then share some of an insight into my experience of that. And so, yes, I might talk a little bit about me on my website, a little bit about having difficulties and having overcome issues with food in the past, but most of the website and most of the content that is on there is all about my client and not about me. So if you have on your website all of that sort of stuff that's based around your qualifications, your years of experience, all the difficulties that you work with, all of the areas that you work with, like if you have on there anxiety, depression, phobia, trauma, if you have loads and loads of issues that you say you work with loads and loads of things, again, it's not going to speak enough to one person. It's watering down your message. So you want to get really crystal clear on who am I trying to attract with this website? Who is my ideal client? What are they struggling with? What are their difficulties? And speak directly to that. Your ideal client really, I mean, some will care about your qualifications and might want to check them out. For the most part, your ideal client, your potential client doesn't care about your professional body, doesn't care about your qualifications, doesn't care about what organizations that you've worked in. They just care about, do you understand this difficulty that I'm having and can you help me? So give that a bit of thought, like get out your website, maybe get it on your phone now and scroll through your website as if you had no idea if you'd no experience of therapy, you'd no idea about modalities or anything like that. Pretend you're your ideal client and that you're going in to your website as a visitor for the first time, like you've never seen it before, and just like scroll through and what impression do you get when you land on your website? Is it easy to use? Number one. Is it easy to navigate? Is there loads of content on it? This is a big thing I see with therapists' website is they just fill it full of information and experience and all of this sort of stuff. And if it takes too long to scroll through, if there's too much text on there, you will put people off and they will jump off your site and go to another site. So visit your own website as if you're blind to it. You've never seen it before. You've never had experience of therapy before. You're pretending to be your ideal client and you're seeing what that journey is of going through your website as if you are looking for help. And so, does it speak to me? Does it speak to me? Is it responsive? Is it easy to navigate? Does it make me want to book in with this person? Because it should. You want people to come to your website and what the content and the words that you put on there connect with them so deeply that they absolutely want to book in with you. My kind of gold star for me is when I hold discovery calls and clients will say to me on the call, or potential clients will say on the discovery call, your website spoke directly to me. It's as if you'd got inside my brain, Claire, and that you were writing about me. I get those kinds of comments quite a lot on discovery calls. That's what your website should do. And that's because my website speaks so clearly and directly to my ideal client that they believe that it's almost like me talking to them. So I want you to think about that. If your website doesn't do that, if it doesn't speak directly to your ideal client and to their difficulties and to their pain points, this might be something that you want to go back and that you want to review and that you want to work on. So I hope you have found that helpful. If I could just kind of then wrap all that up in a pretty little bow and think about my tips for you in regards to your website. My first tip is don't necessarily assume that if you can do it for free, that means that you should. and really weigh up and assess, is it better for me to build this myself, or is it better for me to even wait and save until I have the finances to invest in getting someone to help support me with building this? If you are building it yourself, keep it simple. Nice, simple, easy, clear design, and don't overload it with content or unnecessary information. If it doesn't mean anything to your ideal client, don't have it on there. Don't include it. Make sure your website is easy to navigate. Check, like I said there, check as if you're a visitor to your site and that you've never seen it before. What is the experience of being on your website like? Does it load quickly? Can I get through it easily? And is it really clear how to get in contact with you? And can I book in with you really easily? The final little thing, and this is just a little random thing that I'm throwing in at the end, is have full transparency. Don't make it difficult to find your fees. I did come across a website recently, I think it was last week, and there was no fee on there. And I think it was just something like send me a message or get in touch. I personally am never going to book a call with someone if I don't know how much it's going to cost. And I think sometimes therapists, because we dance around fees or we get uncomfortable with money, it's like we stick it in somewhere that's not really obvious. Be fully transparent with what your fees are. Make sure it's very clear and don't have it somewhere that it's hidden, or don't have it that it's in an FAQ. I don't want to go through searching through FAQs trying to find out how much a session with you is. Have it very, very clear on your services page. Okay, so that is it. Those are all my little nuggets, my little bits of wisdom around your website. I hope you find it helpful. If you do find it helpful, please do share it with other counselors and therapists that you think might benefit. If you're sitting here now going, oh my God, my website is rubbish, I need to do something about this, you might want to check out my Prosper in Private Practice membership. The theme in August is going to be all about websites. We're going to be looking at what makes a good quality website, what are the things that you want to include. And I'm also going to be offering members a complimentary review of their website, which is basically where I go through and I edit all their website and I give video feedback on areas to improve. and ways to enhance it. So if that's something that is of interest to you, check out the show notes. But you will find all the information on my website, which is prosperinprivatepractice.com/monthly membership. But I will put the link in the show notes as well. But that's it for now, guys. Take care.